So good morning, everyone. Good morning. So good to see all of you here. This is the Women's Coffee Club club that we created to support and to support women so that we can collaborate and learn from each other through our weekly meeting, weekly mastermind. Normally it's being hosted by we're taking turn hosting so that we can be learning and supporting each other. And this week, Kim Rackham was supposed to be hosting this mastermind, but she had to evacuate due to fires. So I'm covering for her, and I'll be continuing the lesson from last week. As a group, uh, I'm part of another group with Val. We bought this program from Tony Robbins called Project Next. And last week, the presentation was about the success mindset. We learned about the cycle of success. Do you remember this? Some of you were not here, but basically that the cycle start with there are 4 boxes like this. The first one right here says potential. The next one says action. And on the left bottom corner says certainty or beliefs. And right here on the right-hand side, it says results. So basically the message is that number one, you have to know what your passion is. What is it that you want to do? You have to get clarity. What is it that you want? Because all of us have potential, but you have to know where you're going before you can get there. And then number 2 is Tony saying, take massive action. Like only because you want something doesn't mean you're going to get there unless you take action. So take massive action. And then normally when you take action, you'll have result, whether it's a large result or it's a small result, you'll see results. The result may be good or maybe not so good. And the reason for that is the next column, the next box here is that it's this idea of you have to have the belief or the certainty. He gave an example of like, if you're trying to sell something, let's say Tamara is a coach now, full-time coach, and she wants to sell her product. But if she comes to me and say, hey, I'm a life coach. Do you want me to coach you? But she doesn't have the confidence to sell her product. I wouldn't want to buy from her. Like if you're trying to sell, I think Tony gave the example of selling, if you're going door to door selling shoes or selling something, and you say you won't want to buy this, would you? Like if you don't have the energy when you're presenting yourself, presenting your message, then your audience is going to know that, and they're not going to want to get that from you. They're not going to. So like, let's say it's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like if you want to do something and you don't really believe you can do it, when you're trying to do it, when you're taking action to accomplish that, you're not showing your energy to your audience. So people are not going to be attracted to work with you if that is the energy. So what he's saying is that from the beginning, when you have an idea and you have this goal in your head, that you need to imagine that you're already there. You imagine that you already achieved that goal, that you can achieve, you can see yourself in that at the end results. Because when you have that in mind and you are passionate, you really believe in this, that you know why you want to do this whatever it is that you want for your life, that you will take massive action and you will produce massive results. It's because you have that certainty. And basically, if your result is not that good, then you just keep improving yourself until you get to what you want. So, you take baby step, you get to a certain point and you just keep going. In other words, when things get hard, when you have doubt, you have limiting beliefs, you will continue on with it because you have certainty. So whatever goals you have in mind, to have certainty is super, super important, to believe and have the confidence to to move on and take that massive action. So that was the lesson we learned last week. And this week, today, we're going to be learning about the philosophy of growth. What would it take to continue to grow? Why are rich people, the rich get richer and the poor get poorer? We know, how do you sustain your wealth once you are able to move forward with your action in creating good results? How do you sustain that? So that's the lesson that we will be learning today. I'll be sharing my screen and playing the video by Tony Robbins teaching this lesson. So before I do that, I just wanted to say welcome all of you again. So grateful to see you. Thank you for spending, this morning. I know for me it's 7 a.m. in San Diego, but to take out this time away from your day to be here. So thank you again. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Do you guys have any question, or anyone needed to say something before we start?
Don't forget to share sound, your computer
Okay.
sound. Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And you can only share computer sound when you share screen. So there you are.
Okay. Can you see it? Can all of you see the Tony? Can you see this? Okay.
And sound is on.
Hey, Tony Robbins, welcome back. Listen, our first session here, I hope you watched it, is really about how do you create that momentum? How do you produce that certainty that's going to get you to follow through? I just want to remind you, massive action is everything. You do a little bit at a time, you'll get where you want to go, hopefully, but usually you lose momentum along the way because of all the distractions. But if you'll immerse yourself, and if you learn how to produce that internal certainty that makes you tap your true potential, take that massive action, get great results, and then reinforce your belief, that's why the rich get richer and the poor get poor, because they do the opposite. They have poor results and they base what they're doing based on, well, I've never done it before. Well, listen, if I had to have confidence because I've done it before, I'd be in trouble. When you look at people that are the best in the world in anything, it's because they're being rewarded in public for what they've practiced in private. And so this momentum model, I really want to make sure you keep yourself on board of it, that you keep getting clear what you're here to deliver and have it so clear in your mind. And that's what this session is going to be about. What do you need to keep clear in your mind so that your business grows and scales? Because before we teach you any of the skills, you need to know the philosophy. And I know philosophy can sound boring or something you read in the book, but philosophy determines the quality of what you do. Skills will determine how you execute. And we're going to give you both in this course, but I want to make sure you got the core philosophy. So if we're going to get that momentum that will make you truly successful, let's start with the philosophy. What builds a great business? How do you truly become successful in business? How do you become wealthy, which so many people say they want to be, but they do so little to make happen? The only way you get wealthy and sustain that wealth is if you understand that life is not about me, it's about what do I do for you. Life is really about adding more value. If you can do more for others than anybody else is doing in the marketplace, you will dominate. It's only a matter of time. If you consistently do that, you'll build a brand. And if you build a brand, people get on the ground at a 7-Eleven, reach behind other stuff to get a Coca-Cola. And it's because it's what they know is the best. You become the best by being the person that adds the most value. And I'll tell you who taught me this, my original teacher, Jim Rohn. I can remember, I grew up in a really tough environment. And when I met my fourth father, I said, Mom, I'm confused. And we had no money for food at Thanksgiving. Some of you know the story of what happened to me. I won't repeat it all, but all those experiences made me wonder, why is all my fathers, why are they struggling so much? Why is it they work so hard and yet we don't have money for food? And I remember I went when I was 17 to go hear this man, Jim Rohn, speak, and he answered it in a really simple seminar that day. Again, took his knowledge that he'd accumulated, he'd learned from his mentor, a man named Shof, and put in this little 3.5-hour seminar that I paid a week's worth of pay to go to as a janitor back then. It was $35. I was making $40 a week as a janitor. And I remember listening for 3.5 hours, and I was obsessed. I was writing everything down. I was taking it all in. But one of the greatest things he gave me that day was the answer to the question is, why do so many people struggle financially in a society and a world that has unlimited opportunity, especially today with technology? I mean, you can be in Africa and you have your cell phone and you can get information that when I worked with the President of the United States, Bill Clinton, He didn't have access to the information you have on your cell phone now. He didn't have access to the books that were available instantaneously, to the videos, to the education, to the satellite information, to the connection to markets around the world. He didn't have any of that. And it's available to a tribesman now in Africa. So we have the most unlimited possibilities in the world. How is it so few people get to where they want to be financially? Because most people are doing a job and they aren't thinking about how do I maximize or add value. The people that work in a job where they add value move up. They become the leaders of those organizations. And those that are entrepreneurial, who can say, I'm going to find a way to do more for others than anybody else in some category, those are the ones who can do it consistently and not bullshit and really deliver it. Those are the people that become the brands that you know today. So Jim Rohn taught it to me that night. I remember I kept asking why, why all my fathers work so hard? Why do we not even have food? I mean, what's wrong here? What's wrong with society? And it's nothing wrong with society, because I kept thinking everything should be equal, and it's not. We're all equal at the level of our souls. We're all equal spirits. We're all equal as human beings, but we're not equal in the marketplace. It's your job, my job, to become unequal in the marketplace, to grow, to expand. And the only way you become unequal in the marketplace and sustain that without cheating or lying or doing something illegal is to add more value. And Jim Rohn used to say it this way. He used to say, could a person make twice as much money in the same amount of time? And we'd all pause, and the audience would kind of nod a little bit. Could a person make 5 times as much money in the same amount of time? Could you make 10 times as much money? Could you make 100 times more money in the same amount of time? Is that possible? And the answer is yes, if you become more valuable. This whole course is going to show you how to become more valuable. Whether you have value inside you already, critical value you developed over the years and expertise in an area, or whether you're going to go extract it from someone else, or you're going to find someone who's brilliant and you're going to bring their critical knowledge to the world. Any of those approaches can allow you to have something that's meaningful in your life and incredibly successful and profitable, and provide for your family and for yourself a beautiful quality of life while you're doing something you love. And Jim Rohn used to say, listen, if you work at McDonald's, and I don't remember what it was back then, but I know today, the average person, I guess 4 or 5 years ago when I looked it up, was making running $750, $8 an hour there, like $16,000 a year roughly. I mean, that's pretty rough. You can't live on that. But if you go there, why does Sony make so little there? And then you see, I remember the year that I was looking this up I was working on the financial book. David Tepper is one of the top, investment bankers, I should say investment bankers, hedge fund guys in the world, right? And he that year made 3.5 billion. Somebody else making 20,000. What's the difference? Well, you say that's really unjust. Well, that's on the surface, it's unjust, but you got to say, what is the person doing to add value at McDonald's? They're adding value because they're filling a job, but it's a job that you and I both know is pretty easy to master in probably less than 30 minutes. Today, they even have pictures. You don't even have to be able to know what the words mean. They can push the button and the change is made. Credit card is charged. It's not complex. So it's going to get replaced by algorithms and by robots. And that's not way off in the future. That's not far from now. You're already seeing it happening in stores, and Amazon's opening where, there are no tellers and things of that nature. The world's changing. So if you do that, I'm not negating somebody who works at McDonald's. I'm just saying they aren't adding enough value, so they make very little. Instead of complaining about the pay, you've got to become more valuable. It's like Jim Rohn used to say, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. Work harder to become more valuable so that when you show up at your job, not on during your job time, on the off time, you have knowledge, you have skill, you have something to give that's worth more, so you can earn more and so you can add more value. Does this make sense? I mean, David Tepper making 3.5 billion, he goes, that's so unjust, that's so unfair. Well, the year he did that, the average person put their money in a savings account was getting 0.0, let's call it 0.30, like 1/3 of 1% on their savings account. He provided a 42% return. Now, to give you an idea, if you're making 42% a year, your money is doubling every 2 years, roughly 2.5 years. I mean, that's unbelievably valuable. So he made 3.5 billion because he made hundreds of billions of dollars for other people. And so if you're going to have this course really have long-term value for you, you got to say, I'm going to extract all the value of this course these guys have put into it. Because I got to tell you, if you want to see why Dean is successful, and I'm just saying this because he's my friend because I respect him and I love him personally. He's a good human being, but he's also a great businessman. What makes him great is he adds so much value. Anybody's ever been to one of Dean's courses will tell you, it's just like, it's mind-boggling how much he adds value. But he doesn't just add value then, he adds value after the course is over. He's probably one of the best I know. I've tried to model him and what to do for people afterwards, because I go from one class with 10, 15,000 people to the next one a day later. He's constantly saying, what do I do on the back end? What do I do to add value? Now I do that as well. So it's just the more you do for others, That's the only way this business is going to grow. And if you look, don't take my word for it. If you look around and say, look at who out there is doing incredibly well and say, are they doing something that adds enormous value? If you really look at it, you'll see if they're earning a lot, they're adding that value. How'd they get there? They mastered some skills, some abilities, some talents. They didn't just master it once. It's constant, never-ending improvement, what I always call CANI, C-A-N-I, right? Constant, never-ending improvement is the real secret. Another way of looking at it is that you could look at somebody like, you look at the most successful business philosophers or leaders, Peter Drucker. Peter Drucker used to say, if you want to grow your business, if you understand business, he said, business is really only two things, innovation and marketing. Innovation really sounds complex like technology, but all innovation really is, guys, is finding a better way to meet your customers' needs. See, if you find a better way to meet their needs, you're going to have their attention. And if you know how to market it, you're going to be successful, because marketing is getting people to want to do business with you. Now, I'm going to try and teach you all those philosophies right now. I just want to get you obsessed like I am with adding value. If you're obsessed with adding value, if I can start you out with that before we even start the rest of this course, then as you're learning, you're going to be seeing every little thing means something. And the more I implement those little things, the stacked value will make me be able to compete with anybody or dwarf anybody else in my industry. That's really what you want to be able to do. And again, longevity is that. So think about it. Let me put this in terms like in a relationship. Men don't get this sometimes. Men sometimes initially innovate, come up a unique way to, let's say, entice or enthrall the woman that they're in love with. But then they stop marketing. They stop making them want to do business with them. They stop finding new ways to meet people's needs. Apple is a great company. Most people have a great enthusiasm for it. They've had their ups and downs throughout the years. But the one constant is they're always innovating. They're always finding a new way. And they aren't always the first one to the marketplace of something, but they do it better than anybody else. That's their innovation. And they keep it simple so they can apply it. And the other thing that Apple is unbelievably well is marketing. They know how to understand, what do you want? What do you need? What excites you? What pisses you off? And how can I solve some of your problems? How can I make your life easier, better, richer, more beautiful? How can I make it simpler for you to get what you really want? And how do I get you to know that I can do that for you? So all I wanted to come out of this brief little session was this simple understanding. You can earn as much as you really want to earn, and you can do it faster than anybody else. Whenever I want to learn a new skill, how long do I want it to take to get good at what I'm doing? If you do something once a month, it's going to take a long time to get good at it. If you're going to check out this course and dabble in it, you'll get some value. But man, if I were you, I'd just immerse in this thing. And I just take a look and say, I want to get good at this quickly. How many times can I go through this? How many times can I notes? How many distinctions can I make as I go through this again and again? It's like, you go to a movie or you read a book and you come back to that movie or book 2 or 3 years later. If you've kept growing, it's a different movie. It's a different book because you see and notice different things. So for me, that's how I really look at things. I look at things and say, what can I do to add value today? And then each time, how can I make it better? How can I improve this course? How can I improve the way I reach people? How can I add more value in that place? Because if you do, there is no limit to how big your brand can be, how big your companies can become. I mean, look, I've got no education, traditional education. I have self-education. We're doing $6 billion a year in 54 companies that I've got in about a dozen different industries around the world. I got a couple thousand employees on 4 different continents. How'd that all happen? Self-education with a total obsession for let me do more for other people than anybody else does. But also, here's the hook I should mention. Entrepreneurs usually fall in love with their product or service. And I want to caution you, don't fall in love with your product and service. Fall in love with your ideal customer. If you're going to scale your business, and all the businesses that I've ever taken over, businesses I've started, but the businesses I've taken over have been even more easy because someone has spent years to build a foundation. And I can come in and grow that business so quickly, and I do it with 2 simple steps. Number 1, I figure out who is the ideal customer. Who's the customer that's going to want this product or service and tell all their friends about it, refer the most business, and become a client, not just a customer. Customers go away, clients stay. And what makes a client is somebody you're constantly adding more value to. You're innovating. You're just like the woman in your life or the man in your life, finding new ways to light them up. And also, if finishing that thought, if there's a man or woman in your life, when you first were going after them, you were marketing yourself, weren't you? You were showing up a certain way. And then some people, when they get used to a relationship with a client or their loved ones, they stop marketing. They stop thinking, I need to still entice them to want to do business with me, so to speak. If you really want to get the maximum impact from this course, if you want to mail the maximum quality business that's possible out there for you, innovation and marketing are the 2 skills. They employ everything else in your business. And You want to do it by immersion, and you want to take notes like crazy, and you want to be obsessed with constant ever improvement. If you do those pieces, you're going to find yourself having no difficulty whatsoever making this thing go to another level. So we're going to step into the next piece in a moment here, but what I just want to say to you is there is no limit. This is no bullshit. This is not enthusiasm. There is no limit to the size this business can become that you're beginning today. I will tell you this. It's not overnight. Anybody tells you that's full of shit. It takes such hard work. You know, when you see this overnight success, you're not seeing all that went behind it. But if you're the kind of person willing to work and constantly improve, there really isn't a limit. But what I started to say is you don't want to fall in love with your product or your service. You want to fall in love with that ideal client. Who is the ideal client for you? Who's the client who's going to do well? Otherwise, you're going to create a product you love and you're going to sell it to people just like you, which is a limited market. You think it's giant, but it's not. And as I started to say, most people overestimate what they're going to do in a year, and they underestimate what they can do in a decade or two. So while you're going to do this, commit that this is going to be something you're going to do for your life. You're not just going to try this as a course for 90 days and go, oh, I didn't get rich quick. That's not going to happen. If that's your goal, turn this thing off and go some other course. But if you want to know what it takes to really grow and scale a business that you can be proud of over the years and over the decades, you'll be blown away about what's possible here. So come back to that center and say to yourself, I'm going to do these things on a daily basis. I'm going to make these constant incremental improvements. I'm going to constantly add that value. And by doing that, for an ideal customer, I'm going to grow. Why? Because the ideal customer, if the economy takes a hit, which it will, it's cyclical, they're still going to buy from you. When people say no one's buying, I remember back in 2008, the whole world's ending. I said, it's not true. There are people that need to buy, still need to make investments. We need to find out who those people are and serve them. And we did. We were able to prosper. But then the second thing you need to do is innovate in your offer. And we'll talk about this in more detail, but I just want to plant the seed on adding value. Adding value is knowing who you're dealing with, knowing what they want, what they need, what they fear, what excites them, what pisses them off, and being able to meet those needs better than they can meet them themselves. But by coming up with an irresistible offer, you'll pull them in to be a customer and then eventually a client by you adding so much value. Meaning, you got to figure out what's irresistible. I'll give you one quick example so you know what I'm talking about. I'm not just babbling at you. Tony Shea is a friend of mine. I'm sure you heard of Zappos. And Tony had been successful at a very young age with some businesses. And some friends of his in San Francisco had this idea for this online business. And imagine you're back in the year 2000 and somebody says to you, we're going to sell shoes to women online. Well, what would be your first reason not to invest or think it's a dumb idea? Well, most people say, well, it's never going to work because they're going to have to ship them to them. They got to try them on. And what if they don't fit and they got to ship them back? And you'd be right. The business was a disaster. They burned through a bunch of cash. They're really in trouble in this little house in San Francisco. And Tony Shea came in and said, listen, guys, he said, there's two things you need to do here. He said, you got to have an ideal customer. And sure enough, he said, you already do, because women have a unique relationship with shoes. You know, most men, shoes are an add-on. For women, they can put on one shoe and they're one kind of woman, put on another one. Ladies watching, verify for the men what I'm telling you is true in your life. A woman could put on a certain high heel, it feels like a flat, a different one. A certain color shoe, a different one. They love shoes. For many women, shoes equal happiness. Not all, but many. Very few men that's true for at the same level. Some, yes, but not most. So he said, you've got an ideal customer. What you need is an irresistible offer. You need something that's going to make them have to do business with you. It's just too irresistible. And they said, well, how are we going to do that? He goes, let's look at your biggest obstacle. What's getting in the way? The obstacle right now is they got to try on the shoes, which means they got to ship them to them. They got to pay the shipping. If they don't like it, ship it back. He said, here's your irresistible offer. You can buy as many shoes as you want. Buy them all. Buy 20 pairs if you want. We will pay the shipping so you can try them on at home in your comfortable environment with no one pressuring you. And if you don't like any of them, any ones you don't like, or if you don't like all of them, you can ship them all back and we pay the shipping back. Now, if you're an investor in this company, which there were some at the time, what are you going to say to this guy with this idea? You're insane. They said, we're going to go bankrupt. He said, you're already going bankrupt. Let's just find a way to add more value for the ideal customer with an irresistible offer. Let's test it. And they did, and the rest is history. Because if you know Zappos, they were sold for $1.2 billion to Amazon not too many years later from a company that was not being able to survive. And by the way, Tony Shea still runs the company because his whole focus is adding value. He wasn't just making money. He loves the sense of creating a culture that meets people's needs. That's why he's wealthy. If you truly want to be wealthy, get addicted to falling in love with your customer, your clients, and doing more for them than anybody else is doing. Find the ideal client, come up with an irresistible offer, and keep making yourself more value by improving. That's the core philosophy that will allow you to build the largest business that you can imagine. All right? We'll go to the next session. I just want to grab you on this first, and I hope I've gotten through to you. If you have this obsession, you'll separate yourself from the pack. That's the privilege that I have in my life. I want it for you as well. God bless. Let's go to the next session.
All right.
Oops. Sorry, guys.
Mark, and tomorrow, if you're scheduling your 20-minute.
Okay, we're back. So wasn't that amazing, guys? What do you think about Tony Robbins' lesson? Yeah, that was super amazing. So I'm just going to review what we just learned, and then I'm going to open it up and to go around the room here to find out what you learned from it and how can you use it to apply this in your life. Just as a reminder, this is a review. The first thing is you need to have the success mindset. He talks about the 4 boxes, the cycle of success. The first thing is potential. Each of us have potential. We think of something that we want to do. You have to take massive action. The second box is massive action. You need to take action and generate result. Result is the third box. And then the fourth box is certainty or belief. So in other words, you have the potential, you take action, you have result. And your result will be determined by the amount of belief or certainty that you have in your head. The more you believe that you can do it, the more success you will have, because it will feed. Otherwise, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy where you have doubt and you have limiting belief, and then your effort is less. You get not so good result. Eventually, you're quit. So that's why that's like the number one thing is to have the mindset. And then number 2, what he talks about today, it's about the philosophy that drives growth, basically by adding value. Really important, adding value. He talks about innovation and marketing. So basically, if you don't have what it takes to do what it is that you want to do, that you need to figure that out what it is and continue to improve yourself in self-education, in making yourself more valuable. You keep making improvement. He talks about that never-ending improving. So in other words, when you achieve result that's not really what you want, you continue to change it, upgrade it to make it better, and continue to improve and to find your ideal client. Because in any kind of business, it's about innovation and marketing, regardless of what it is that you do. I don't like sales. I don't like marketing. That was like a no-no for me. But really, even when I'm doing here, I'm doing sales. I'm really doing sales here. Sales is service. That was the idea, is that everything requires marketing. Sales is service. So even in your day-to-day, even when you're a teacher or any kind of service you're doing, even when you're working 9 to 5, you are trying to please somebody. You are doing the service. So adding value. And when you add more value, you create a brand. Once you create a brand and that brand is known by somebody, people want to go with you. Whether you're choosing a mastermind or you're choosing anything in your life, you're looking for that brand name. It's like if you want to take a coaching certification, you're not going to take coaching certification from somebody who is new. You take it from Tony Robbins because he has a brand name, or Mary Morrissey, or some of the other known coaches, because they created a brand. So with that, I would like to open this up. Like for me, it's massive to understand all of these, to understand that really you need to keep adding value. If you want to be valuable, that's how you can serve your ideal client. So Tamara, would you like to be the first? What do you learn from this, and how do you think you can apply what we learn into your life?
Oops, surprise. But I'm gonna go with it. I know I come on a little late, but I still get value. And one thing that struck me when Tony Robbins said, fall in love with the person who is your ideal clients. I've never heard that before. So I'm saying, that's a good look on your customers when you fall in love with the person, you know, who you want to serve. That is my big takeaway, to be honest, because you always said fall in love with your product, because me, I sell product as well. And our manager would say you have to fall in love with the product, but he's teaching something else, fall in love with the person. So that is a big takeaway for me.
That is so true. Isn't that amazing? Don't fall in love with yourself. You know, we worry about ourselves. We worry, am I good enough? Who wants to listen to me? How you know, I can't do this. It's you're focusing on yourself. What you're saying is, Tony said, focus on your customers. What can you do for them? And just stop trying to think about yourself. You know, we obsess about ourselves. Oh, I don't like my hair. You know, they're not going to like me when they see me, whatever. But anyway, so yeah, thank you for that, Thelma. Val, I see your hands up, but I want to go back to Tamara because I was calling on Tamara. Go ahead, Tamara.
Okay, so I'm with Thelma, falling in love with the ideal client. Like, the way that he put that, I knew that having that focus is important and making sure that we're serving the client, but to put that spin on it, falling in love with the client and what they need, that was very, the aha moment went for me. And then like constantly improving on every day I'm in the study every day and just improving every day and talking to spirit every day. And this morning, I've been getting a lot of like aha moments lately, because it's like I do my meditations and then spirit gives me something, and I have this expo this weekend. And I was like, I want something interactive so that people could really understand, because I really want to touch these women and let them be as happy as I am. And without this coaching program, I would have not been this happy. Anyway, so spirit gave me this morning. And you know how we have the 4 quadrants, and then we have end date or birth date to end date, and we have spirit that goes right through the middle. And so I was like, spirit just like totally gave me that vision this morning. And I have a felt board. And so I'm going to cricket the words, and then people can felt board all of the pieces to what makes them happy. Anyway, so when Tony says, keep improving, we're ask spirit. He said, I ask every day, what can I do to improve? And I'm like, yes, that's what I do too, yes. But it's nice to see that it is actually being done by other people as well. So just having that confirmation and then being confident in this. I am the woman who is helping 20 wonderful souls break curses and build lives they love. And that just excites me. It excites me. And I'm just like so full of love and just, so I've got chills, sorry.
So awesome, Tamara. Thank you so much for that. It's so true, isn't it? Yeah, fall in love with your ideal client. And he did talk about allowing grace to come into your life, because things will be presented, you know, the universe, I call it God, but you call whatever you want. But he said, allow grace to go into your life, but you have to do your part. You know, God can only do, you know, but you have to take action and you have to be the one doing it. So thank you, Tamara, for your share. Val, you're next.
On the same ideas on, you know, falling in love with the client, where it's Sir Richard Branson says, you know, if your staff take care of the client, you know, we're all going to be taken care of, basically. So it's the client at the bottom line that needs to have the 100 focus. What kind of result do we want with client? And I remember last year when I applied at Zappos, so when I heard Tony mentioning Tony Share, I studied Zappos, and they even so that you can read about their culture, what it is to be an employee at Zappos, and all that kind of things. And so I read about the company, and something that really stick to my mind is their first mantra, number one policy, is to wow the customer. They just want to wow you, wow, you know? And it happened to me because one day, actually it was this dress. This dress is a Zappos dress. I bought this dress for a function with Bob Proctor in Toronto. And for whatever reason, my flight was a Sunday, and the dress, you know, something happened with the transport. Anyway, I couldn't get the dress on time. And you call Zappos, I said, oh, don't worry, darling. We're gonna overnight you one. And so they overnighted another dress, never asked for the first dress. So I got two of them actually for the price of one. They told
Val is frozen here. Yeah, she's frozen. She'll be back. I don't know. It must be her internet. We will just continue and then come back to Val when she comes back. So Bina, what are your takes on this?
Every time I hear him, oh my gosh, I feel like even if it's this time, obviously it was different, but even if it's the same or similar message, I get so much out of it. It's amazing. He's just, yeah. So some of the things I wrote down, which I remember my brother has always told me, like, make yourself irreplaceable in your marriage, in your, you know, career, in your, you know, kids' life or whatever, friends' life. Make them feel valued and you provide the value. And this is similar to that. It reminds me, do it better than anyone else was one of my takeaways. Add more value, make others' life simpler and better and more beautiful. And the one thing that I realized about me, I thought I was bringing value. I thought I was valuable. I thought I was doing this and that. And now I realize that it's not what I think I'm bringing. I want to make sure the other person thinks I'm bringing that. So what is their perception of what value I'm bringing to their life? And that was a huge epiphany for me today. So I'm going to work on that.
So true, Bina. Thank you so much. So true, isn't it though? We focus on ourselves. We're so afraid of this, that. We're not good enough, whatever. But people don't care. People don't even pay attention to all of our insecurities, you know?
Exactly.
It's really like they care more about what did they get out of it.
Yes.
So thank you for that. Sandra, you're next.
Oh, I was just thinking about that. You've come back to it 2 or 3 times about people don't care because they're more worried. We're all worried. It's a fact that 98% of what we think is about ourselves. That's for everybody. That's just for everybody. And once we really get that, let's pull out the 2% where we're not thinking about ourselves and we're totally focused on the other person, because they are 98% focused on themselves. So speaking to Bina, it's not about what value we think we're bringing, and it's not even about what value they think we're bringing. Let's get that out of the way. They will tell you what value you're actually giving them with the thank you. And that's a different, instead of us trying to think what value they think. I mean, pretty soon we'll think about them. I think I have to worry about me to think about what they might be thinking is a circle you can't get to the end of.
No.
That's something.
Ask them, what is this bringing to you? What is it that I can give you? What are you getting out of it right now? They will tell you, and that's the value you're bringing. End of statement. No thinking about it.
So true. So true. So good, Sandra. I mean, that is absolutely true. We worry about people thinking about us when they're thinking about themselves. So true. Just if you don't know, just ask that question. Absolutely
what
true.
If they don't
Thank
tell
you.
you then? What if they don't tell you?
Well, if they don't tell you, then they haven't gotten the aha, Because if
Okay.
they got the aha, you'll see it. You'll say, what
Okay.
is that? What's that feeling you're getting? They may not know all of what they've gotten, but if you see the aha in their eyes, and do you feel that? What is it? I'm not
Okay.
sure, but something's there and it's going to perk. That's it.
Okay.
That's it. They don't have to, we think everybody can verbalize everything. And most of us, when we have been learning, didn't even know what we were learning. And always, if we go back to the child, how did we learn? Did we know when something penny dropped? No. Did I know when my daddy said, you raise others up by putting yourself down? He didn't mean to hurt me. But that little child mind said, oh, I have to put myself down so others feel good. So I put myself down for the next 30, 40 years. I'm now 75. I quit putting myself down many years ago, but the power of what goes in the mind. So when they get that aha moment, they're not even sure what it is. They might know a decade from now. And when I look at my evolution, I can actually go back by the decades and see the evolution was so slow, but it was also very fast, but I couldn't see it.
Yes. So
Nice.
true. Thank you, Sandra. It's just human
Thank you.
nature, isn't it? Suzanne, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, when Tony Robbins is talking about a job that you can perfect quickly, 30 minutes, we all know I work at Starbucks. And I think as much as the mechanicals you can do, there's nothing that says more than connection with the person. You talk about some of these older people who say, I hate self-checkouts. I don't get the connection. I don't get the, hi, how are you? And everything. And that's where I add value. I'm like, my going and talking to people first thing in the morning at Starbucks as I hand them their coffee is going to put a ripple effect into the air, because they're now starting off with, oh, wow, that was quite a magnanimous greeting I had and the connection. So that person is not going to walk into work all grumpy. They're going to pass it on and pass it on and pass it on. So while it is mechanical and I can talk, I can do what I have to do. The connection is where you add value. And if you're going to be grumpy and everything to people first thing in the morning, it's going to send off a grumpy ripple. If you're positive and send off, and that's what we have to do with clients, is bring them in and start them off with a cheerful greeting, because that's just going to lift them up. And then they're meeting you here, not down here. So
Absolutely, absolutely, Suzanne. Thank you so much. That connection is so, so important. Thank you for your share. Kasha. It's good to see you here, Kasha.
Well, Rini, believe or not, this is my first time drinking coffee with you without coffee. I didn't have time yet to make one. So thanks for having me over. And yes, I came a little bit late. And, for me, the idea of focusing on the client, it's not really new. And maybe because, I grew up in a wedding business, where we were, serving women for the first and the most important day of their life, when they are dreaming about this moment, for so many years sometimes, Cinderellas, they want to be Cinderellas for their wedding. And if you watched this show, Say Yes to the Dress, my family had business like this, much smaller scale in Poland, but since somebody comes to your door, you are always focused on them, what they speak to you, because sometimes women, they come and they say, I want a dress that looks like this, and then you put one dress on them, and you're listening and looking for the signs and symptoms. And I would say in 90% of cases, women are not ending up with what they came for, because they don't know what would work for them best. They're looking at pictures at magazines or online, and they think, oh, this is a great dress. And then in the reality, often it works like, no, this is not great for you. And that's why, you know, I was always working on that journey of, you know, supporting them, not hurting them, but supporting on them on that way to find the dress of their dream and say yes to that dress at the end. So I guess in my case, you know, I don't really have to focus on ideal client, because for me, every client who comes my way, when there is a connection, is the ideal client. And the ideal client for me, it's not necessarily a client, but an ideal plan how to work with the client to make an ideal success at the end. But of course, I always enjoy watching Tony Robbins. I've seen him for the first time live in Las Vegas when I was, I think it was 2016. I was there on GoPro. So that was my first experience. So it's always cool and fun to see his faces. Thank you so much for your sharing.
Thank you. Thank you, Kasia. You know, a lot of ideas are not new, but we forget. We just don't focus on it. And a lot of things are really not, you know, novel and new. But thank you for your share, Kasia. So true. Lovelyn, you're next. You're muted, Lovelyn. I don't know. Okay, go ahead. I
Yeah,
can't hear
okay.
you. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, my biggest takeaway actually, and I'd like to add my voice to Sandra's, is when you know that this life is about other people and not you. That is the starting point, I think. And then from there, you now give. So it's all about giving back to the community. So you improve other people's lives and then do things better than other people. I like what he said about that we are all equal as human beings, but we are not equal in the marketplace. It means that there's a lot of competition out there. So there's constant improvement. You do things every single day and then improve yourself. And I think the key point here is self-development and self-improvement. So we improve ourselves every single day and do things better and faster because of the competition that is out there. And then when you identify your ideal customer, because customers come and go, and then you now identify the clients, because I think clients come from customers because clients stay. So you have to do things in such a way that you get attracted to people that will now become clients eventually. And that is by constantly improving yourself, making yourself better, and then competing with other people out there. Because like he said, we are all equal as human beings, but then in the marketplace, we are very unequal because of the different skills that people display out there, and then the constant improvement that we have to seek for and apply.
So true, so true. Thank you, Lovelyn. Val, I see your hands up, but I'd like to give everyone a chance to speak first, and then I'll come back to you. Thank you. Jane, you're next.
Good morning, everyone. Wow, this is super. Are we lucky or what? That we have the time and the space and the brain power to just soak this all in. Okay, so I'm reminded of a couple of things. I was, for many years, I was in an industry in banking, mortgage banking, that I was surrounded by a lot of men, fair amount of women, but mostly men. And I was constantly seeing them chase the dollar, the dollar, the dollar. And what's interesting is that every month, who would be the closer of the month, or who were the top 3 or 5 people closing loans? And for the most part, it was the women, because we cared and we did add value, even in an industry that was very much counting the dollar, looking for the almighty dollar and what have you. But then I go a little bit deeper, and when I think about my own business as an astrologer, because I've always been an astrologer, even it's only been in the last 10 years that I do it full time now. So I think about, well, what's changed for me? How is it that I got more effective at what I do. Yes, certainly it's about, contributing, giving of yourself, knowing that you have the value and showing up with the value. But I think I needed to drill down deeper, and I have in life. And I find that when you truly like yourself and love yourself, appreciate yourself, then the value and the putting yourself up there, out there, and around there to the ideal customer comes so naturally. It just, when you have the passion of your conviction of what you're doing, and you've, in other words, we owe it to ourselves to remove the obstacles that keep us from our greatness, right? To be in flow, to be in love with ourselves, not conscious of ourselves, of, how's my hair? How am I speaking? Are they going to like me? No, and so that's what I've found the power where it exists is in me, because when I come in joy and then I'm proficient at what I do, damn, it's so good. Why can't I be 25 years old again and start with this attitude, It's like, oh, well.
So true, Jane. Thank you. That was so good. It's so true, isn't it? Self-love. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm going to let Val go first because she has to go to work at 8, and we're going to be a little bit late, but it's okay. I want everyone to have a chance to say something. Go ahead, Val.
Oh, I just wanted to share this book that I'm reading. It's very small, as you can see, so very entertaining. It's called Hiring the Heavens by Jane Slater. And when Tony talks about, getting the picture of what we want, sometimes it can be overwhelming. And that's when we stop, because we're overwhelmed by the idea. The idea is already overwhelming. And the more we overwhelm ourselves, then it's a catch-22, as we know, and we go to downfall. Then the belief that he's talking about just diminish, and then we quit, like you said, Bernie. But there are forces, Price Pritchett in your square talks about unseen forces. Here, Jane Slater talks about, hiring the heavens. There are forces out there that are just for our own benefit, because we are spiritual beings. And so when we call on those forces, and it's not because we call once that things are going to work. Same thing, consistency, that's where the prayers and the meditation and the gratitude comes into place first thing of the day, to start the day, to prime, right? To prime our mind and our brain onto the right frequency, and then start the connection with hiring the heavens. And I just tested the book because my sister and I, and I'm going to make this long story short, my sister and I went to see a concert, and for whatever reason with security, she couldn't get in with a big bag. So we had to go and walk back and forth from home, from the House of Blues where the concert was, so she could drop her bag and then come back. By the time we come back, I had also decided to get a smaller bag. I arrived at the, halfway on the last walk, and I'm like, oh my God, now I forgot the tickets. And that's when I had the idea. I'm like, I'm going to hire a spiritual musical committee. And she talks about, get your committees in, get your staff, have a conversation with your staff. And then you get insights. Well, I hired those, unseen forces. And as we arrived in the concert, first, we managed to get in without the tickets. So I was like, okay, the door is in. And as we got in, after 45 minutes of missing the band, the 2 songs that they play were exactly the song that I wanted to hear. So I was so grateful. I said, you all did a great job. Thank you very much. And now I have to go.
Thank you, Val. That was so good. Glad that you get to share that.
Yeah,
I know
it's
you have
fun
to go to
stories.
work.
We can play with all this,
Yes,
Sandy
yes.
Gallagher is very big on playing with the energy. So love
Thank
y'all.
you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have a good day. I see your hand, Kasia, but I'd like to let other people have a chance to speak first that haven't had the chance, and then I'll come back to you. Kathleen, go ahead.
Hey, everybody. There were 2 points. I love Tony Robbins. It just, everything that comes out of his mouth is amazing. One thing that wasn't really touched on was him saying, in order to have massive success, you need to take massive action. So there was someone in our group last week who quit their job in order to become a full-time coach. Do you remember who that was?
Camera, right there. She's here.
She's going to have massive success because she took massive action. She just jumped right off the cliff. And that is true. That's what it takes. If you want to be the best in whatever it is you're doing, you have to really work for it. You have to really prepare and really jump into it head first. So that was a great reminder. And then what everybody else touched on was love your ideal client is so important, because if you focus, so if I take me, for example, planning to teach yoga, to teach tapping, to teach chakras to people. These are things that I've been studying for many, many years. So when I go out to do this at my age, I'm 60 years old, who's my ideal client? I'm not gonna go to LA and teach, 20 and 30 something year olds yoga. I'm not gonna go out to the Hamptons and teach those people yoga. Who is my ideal client? Finding that out and then loving your ideal client. There are so many people in the population who don't have the knowledge that I have. They are where I was decades ago. And so I do have jewels to offer them to older people, to people who have never tried yoga, maybe people that are disabled in some way. Just not your typical white female, wealthy 20, 30, 40-year-old yoga student, that pays for their yoga classes and, wears their Lululemon, and that's not necessarily my client. But to these other clients, I can love them because I want to help them. I'm not doing it for me. If you want to be successful, you're doing it for someone else. You get back whatever it is you give out. So if you're giving out everything that you've learned and you're giving out love so that you can help people get to where you are, the spiritual law says you're going to be successful.
That's true. Thank you, Kathleen. It is so true about the ideal client. Actually, in Tony's program, they teach you how to find your ideal client. It's finding that small niche, very small niche that you're talking about, the ages and all that stuff. But it's down the line in his program. But thank you for your share, which is very true. Mary Ann, go ahead. You're muted,
Hello.
Mary. Yeah, go ahead.
Hello everyone. I'll share a message here as like a summary of my learning here. Age, call it age, because like first, like we have to know ourselves. So we have to know what our attitudes are, skills, knowledge. It's all about ourselves first, so that we can be confident of ourselves. And because if we will like to serve others when our cups are empty, they'll know that we're not full, that we're not confident, and they can trust us. So let's first like know ourselves, and then Next is to the growth. It's sharpening your saw. So it's the canine that Tony Robbins said, the constant and never ending improvement. So like, don't dwell on your accomplishments. So you have to continuously grow, to continuously improve. And also, the E is the entirety of your ideal customer's needs. So to bring more value. So when you love your ideal client or customers, you know you will be interested, that you have to know, that you want to know the nitty gritty details about them. So you don't just do marketing at the start, but you continuously do marketing with innovations as you move forward, as Tony Robbins said. So you can go above and beyond to serve them well. Thank you. You're muted, Rainy. You're muted, Rainy. Excuse me.
So sorry. I was saying thank you, Marianne. I said we're past the hour, so if any one of you need to go ahead. I mean, we understand, but we're going to be a little bit late because I'd like everyone to have a chance to share in this group. Let's see who hasn't shared, and then Kasha, I know you had your hands up. Faith, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I've been listening, and
Okay.
I'm the child with the dunce hat on in the corner, I guess, because none of this has been my experience. So I have to say that I'm learning the hard way. I'm not as down the path as everybody who spoke before me. I'm learning the hard way that you do, in fact, have to value and love yourself for sure, first, before others can value and love you, no matter how much value you're bringing to the table. If you don't value and love yourself, it's like dogs can smell people who are scared. People can smell you don't value themselves, you don't value yourself. And I'm sorry, there's something about people that just don't mind taking advantage. And if you don't love yourself and value yourself, you may not know the signs to look for. You may over effort. You won't set boundaries. So it doesn't matter. I guess if you're kind of codependent and you haven't learned to love yourself, you can end up being in a situation where you keep trying constantly to give value, over efforting and over efforting. And if you don't learn to love yourself and set boundaries and see situations that are good for you and situations that are not good for you, you can end up coming across the same person that will not value you time and time again. And it's really hard to value yourself when nobody else values you, no matter what you're bringing to the table. Perhaps that's the reason for this biblical expression, do not cast pearls before swine, but you must learn to love yourself and value you and what you're bringing so other people can value it. And I'm learning that one the hard way.
Thank you for that, Faith. And I think it's true. I don't think Tony Robbins is saying not to love yourself. I think it's just that you do need to love yourself. I know that the particular topic wasn't exactly covered the way but I think when he's talking about believing and having the self-confidence, in a way, in order to gain that, in order to gain the belief and the self-confidence, you need to love yourself. In other words, I think it's the idea of comparing ourselves with other people, where we think that other people care so much about us and that we worry that about us. But it is true, and as part of our self-development, self-care and self-love is absolutely necessary to get to a place where you could be confidence, and believing in yourself. So, but thank you for your share. Omeka, you're next.
Yeah, hey, always wonderful. Yeah, with me, what opened up well, it was a bright light for me, whatever you want to call it, is that I'm realizing, and I'm like, every time I realize it, is that in just being who I am and sharing, instead of saying, buy this or join this or those words, people are like, it's like, as soon as you say that, they like, but it's, even when I post something, if I'm like posting something about a product, or I don't get, it's like crickets. And if I'm posting something like, say, the Tower Garden, just showing people what the Tower Garden looks like and how I'm growing my fruits and vegetables, and people, without like trying to sell it. Or if I'm just drumming without trying to sell, and I haven't created, I'm still creating it, sell a mastermind or sell even an instrument or whatever, or sell my services. People resonate with it. And to me, that's showing me who my tribe is and who my people are that I could market to or let them know. And I put the quotes, but marketing is marketing, because everything is marketing, whether we say it is or not. So that's my takeaway. Yeah, everybody's great comments and stuff. And yeah.
Thank you, Omeka.
Yeah, that was my main takeaway. Let me just leave it at
Yes.
that. So, yeah.
Thank you for your share. And Kasia, we're going to close it out with Kasia, because I know it's 8:12 right now. So Kasia, go ahead with your comment, and then we need to close this meeting.
Yes, so I have a comment because of what Jane was sharing about, banking, and how women were, super successful with whatever they were doing there. It's interesting because in the wedding business, of course, most businesses, they operate with women serving women because that's kind of obvious what's gonna work. But on the other hand, I have a feeling, because I have brother who ran the wedding business, and he was extremely successful. I think he sold and rent out more dresses than everybody in Poland. And so there was another guy in Warsaw who was also, putting dresses and serving women when they were looking for those dresses. So it's interesting that men could sell so many dresses in this particular women-oriented business, and especially when they have to kind of get naked when they try those dresses on. But I have a feeling that, men in that industry were successful because perhaps those girls were less dramatic, or maybe, they were more into the business of finding the dress than, being, oh my gosh, kind of, performancers during those processes. So yeah, it was really interesting what Jane you share. And, again, I came back to my years of working with the clothes design and wedding businesses, perspective of serving clients. I think it's important to understand the client and be focused on your client, of course. So thank you so much. And I guess I will see you next week.
Thank you,
Unless you
Kasia.
are going to meet us somewhere else during other NG classes.
Yes. Thank you, Kasia, for your share. I think Jane is saying that women tend to connect. Sometimes they create, it's just part of women's personality, but it doesn't mean men can do it also. But this has been a great mastermind, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We already way past the hour, and we will continue our discussion, next week. I can't remember who the host is, but I will be posting it on the Facebook Messenger. If you're not part of that, message me and let me know. I could add you to the group. But thank you again, everyone.
Thank you.
See you
so much.
next
It was
Thursday.
wonderful.
Until then, have a great weekend.
You
Really,
too.
Care.
Go
All
to
right.
Bye, ladies.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Really, are you going to update the link on the NG? Because I actually joined from the NG, not from the chat. Is the link on NG going to be updated in case somebody else Zoom will be used?
No, I'm not, it will not, I don't have access to update it. So, but it's still there.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So, but I did post
Yep,
it.
I came in, I joined and came in through the Noel Goldman, just went to your women's chat and hit the join, and this is where it brought me.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay, you can join either way, but it will not be updated. Thank you, everyone. See you next week.